Krishna Chaitanya Dayal Prabhu Nityananda.
Hello guys, namaste. Welcome to another video. In this week's asana video, we're gonna focus on the last chakra that we've been working on, which is the Sahasrara Chakra, the crown chakra. So for this video, we're gonna work on Sirsasana, which is the headstand. So yeah, let's do it. The first asana that we're gonna work on some of the principles of Sirsasana, because this asana, although it is not so difficult, the balance, it is quite difficult to actually do it properly. Because even though it seems that we are standing partially in our head, most of the weight of our body should be in the arms, and we're not standing on our heads, but instead of that, we are pressing and we're trying to lift up our bodies from the floor. So even though it's called headstand, we are actually using more our arms, and we're trying to lift up our spine and the back muscles up towards the toes. So we're not falling into the ground, but we're pressing and trying to lift up. So we're gonna start with the first asana, trying to create some length in our backs, trying to create some strength in the back muscles. So we're gonna start with the child pose, but it's not gonna be a resting child pose, no? Because when we do child pose, we think that we have to be here sleeping, having some good time. So we don't want to do that. We actually want to, first we're gonna have the big toes together, and then we're gonna open the knees, and we want to have enough space that we go in between the legs. So we don't want to open too much or too little, just enough that we can go in between the legs, and that the sides of our trunk are touching the inside of our legs. Now we're gonna place the hands on the side, and we're gonna try to lift up our chest. We're gonna try to take our shoulders back. So we take our shoulders back, we take the elbows back. We don't want to push the abdomen forward, but we want to take the rib cage, the ribs down, and the rib cage is expanding. And then we want to lengthen our back muscles. Now, keeping this length in our back, we're gonna start placing our fingers in the front, and we're gonna start walking with our hands, creating more length in our backs. And notice how I'm not taking my head back. So what is going last is gonna be the head. We just want to walk and create that extension in the back, which is gonna be an active extension. So we don't want to drop back down into the mat, but we want to walk forward, extend forward, and at this time, we're gonna keep the fingertips on the mat like this. So we're not gonna place the hands, we're gonna keep the fingertips up, and what we're gonna place is gonna be the forehead. So we keep the extension in the back, and at last we place only the forehead. So as you can see, it's a very nice pose to understand the rotation of the shoulders, the extension in the back, how we drop the abdomen, how we drop the ribs. So it's a place where we can understand many of our body tendencies. So we don't want to drop anything while we practice asana. We want to keep it active, and we want to create extension in the body. We don't want to drop, we want to create extension. And this is what we are trying to do here. We're trying to create extension in our back, and in this pose is much easier because our legs are resting in the mat. So the back is free to move forward. I'm gonna stay here for 5 more breaths. Fingertips are up. We're not placing the palm on the mat, and we are not dropping our torso towards the mat. What is touching is only our forehead. We say last 2 breaths, keeping that nice extension. Now slowly we're going to walk a little bit back. We're going to place the elbows on the mat. So the elbows are going to be in line with the shoulders, right under the shoulders. And then the hands are going to be in that same line. So there is a line in between the shoulders, the elbows, and the wrist. And we can even open the hands a little bit more to the side. And now here, we want to press the palms on the mat, and we want to start taking the shoulders back. Because you see, otherwise, what's the opposite action? The shoulders are rolling forward. So we want to come from here to take the shoulders back, all the way back. So shoulders, arms are rolling out. Then the shoulders, they're actually going back. And then there are these muscles in the neck, the trapezius. So we want to also descend the trapezius down towards the back, towards the lower back. Because otherwise it happens the opposite. They're rolling up, and that creates a lot of tension in the neck. And that's what we want to avoid when we do the handstand. Okay? So we're going to do it for some breaths. We're going to press the hands on the mat. We're going to roll the shoulders back, and we want to descend the scapulas. We want to descend the trapezius, and we want to try to look up, extending all the front of our bodies, all the front of the torso. We try to look up as much as we can, trying to descend the scapulas, the shoulders. Take 2 last breaths. Keeping the abdomen in, opening the chest, and descending the scapulas. So now we're going to try to unify these 2 actions that we learn in the child pose and in this exercise of the depression or the descending of the scapulas. Now we're going to try to do the same in downward facing dog. So we're going to move the hands. We're going to do downward facing dog, opening the hands at the edge of the mat, same as the feet. And we're going to try to do this downward facing dog with the legs back, pretty far from the hands. Because sometimes we do downward facing dog with a very short distance in between the hands and the feet. So we want to do it with a quite wide stance. So we want to also open the hands at the edge of the mat, and we want to open the feet also at the edge of the mat. And we're going to try to press our hands in the mat and start extending our spine, our back towards the hips. And we're going to do the same with the scapulas and the trapezius. So we want to try to descend all these muscles. And we want to extend towards the hips. And we stay here for 5 breaths. We stay 1. We stay 2. We stay 3. So here, same as in the child pose, we don't want our torso to drop down into the mat, but we want to keep the ribs in, we want to keep the abdomen in, and the whole body is extending towards the hips. And especially in this case, we're trying to roll the shoulders down in that same direction of the hips, like we were doing in the previous exercise. Now slowly, you're going to start walking back with your hands. Walk back, bend the knees, hands in the hips, inhale, come up. And we're going to do to the next asana, which is going to be Prasarita Pautanasana. So one of the main issues with doing the hands, the headstand, is that we're a little bit afraid to be upside down. So we need to get used to this feeling of being upside down. And one of the best asanas that you can do for this is going to be Prasarita Pautanasana. Not just for the fact that you're upside down from the torso towards the head, but also because the body is descending towards the floor and you want to create the opposite. So even though you're bending forward from the hips down towards your head, you want to start ascending the scapulas as we did in the previous asanas. So you can see here how I'm descending down from the hips. So you see the shoulders, they can also go down. So we want to avoid this, and we just want to start lifting the shoulders up and start extending the trapezius towards the hips, even though the torso is going down towards the mat. So we work in two things here. We work in the feeling of being upside down, like we do in Sirsasana, and we're working on that action of descending the scapulas and extending the trapezius towards the hips. We stay here for 5 breaths. We stay 1. We stay 2. We stay 3. We stay 4. And 5. Inhale, straighten the back, look up. We're gonna take the hands to the hips, and with the next inhalation, we come up and we go to the next asana. So in the next asana, again, we're gonna try to unify everything that we're doing. It is all a progression. So try to understand all the progressions that we're doing, from the child pose to the exercise of the shoulders, the scapulas, downward facing dog, Prasarita Pautanasana, and why is all this helping us to do a good Sirsasana. So we don't want to go into Sirsasana and do Sirsasana before preparing our bodies. But we want to prepare our bodies so that we can do a nice Sirsasana, so that we can get the actual benefit of the asana practice. So for the next asana, which is a little bit more complicated, and I gotta be honest, it's not one of my favorite asanas. It's an asana that I feel I have to work a lot on, and that is really good to understand how to do Sirsasana. And it's gonna be the dolphin. So the dolphin, that I actually have to investigate what's the name in Sanskrit, because I actually don't know. But the dolphin, we're gonna keep that same principle that we were working with this scapular action. We want to keep that line in between the shoulders, elbows, and wrist. We're gonna try to descend the scapulas, not like this, so the scapulas are descending, shoulders are going back, and then we're gonna go into the plank. And already here is a little bit complicated. And try to notice how the elbows, they want to open to the side, you see? So and that's because our shoulders are stiff and they're not open. So we want to keep that pressure, that extension that is coming from the pressure of the hands, the pressure of the elbows, and the descending of the scapulas. So we're gonna try to keep this, and then slowly we're gonna start to walk just a little bit. So you see, the moment that the elbows are crossing, that the shoulders are crossing the elbows, then we should stop. We should not move forward. We should stay there and try to press the elbows, try to press the hands, and try to get the shoulders over the elbows. And if you can manage to stay there without opening the elbows, or without the elbows crossing without the shoulders crossing the elbows, then maybe if that's what you're doing, then you can walk a little bit forward. But the idea here is to press and extend. And then we can stay here. If you want, you can walk all the way to even your feet to touch the elbows, but keeping that same pressure from the hands, from the elbows into the shoulders, descending the scapulas, and then slowly take the knees down, and we go into the next asana. So it's very important to understand this pressure of the hands, this pressure of the elbows, and how all this is the base of Sirsasana. So from that same pressure is how we're lengthening up when we do Sirsasana. So now, again, this is a preparation for Sirsasana. So all these exercises, if you do it periodically. It's gonna help us a lot, not just to do Sirsasana, but also to strengthen our body in a really nice way because of all the extension that we're creating. We're nurturing our muscles with all these exercises, all these asanas. So it's actually quite deep. Now, we're gonna try to do now some Sirsasana. So we're gonna start by talking about how the hands are interlaced, no? So in Sirsasana, we're going to interlock the fingers. So we want to really go inside the fingers, interlace the fingers, and then we want to hold the skin of our wrist and almost pull the skin of our wrist with our fingers. That's how strong the interlock has to be. And then we're gonna, the thumbs, they're gonna be free and they don't want to touch. There has to be a space in between the thumbs. So we don't want to be like this, we don't want to be like this. We want to keep a space in between the thumbs because our head is gonna be in between our hands. So we want to have that space, and if the thumbs are touching, then we close the space in the hands. So it's very important to go step by step. First the interlock of the fingers. Once we have that, then we can go and press the elbows. See? So we want to press the elbows on the mat. We want to keep that extension in the upper arm, the extension in the forearm. And then we want to descend the scapulas, we want to extend the trapezius down, and keeping that base, very conscious of what's happening. We're gonna go first into a low plank. So do you notice that I haven't even put my head on the mat, right? So the next one, we're gonna start walking, keeping that same extension that we get in dolphin. Walk. This is a little bit more easy because the hands are together now. So we walk as much as we can, pressing the elbows, keeping that extension in my back. And then at last, keeping all this engaged, I'm gonna place my head in between my hands. And then maybe I can walk more. Again, keeping that pressure from the elbows. Now we can lift up one of the legs. We can stay here. We stay for 1. We stay 2. Take the leg down. Lift up the other leg. We stay 1. We stay 2. Maybe we can lift up both legs. We stay 1. We stay 2. Exhale, go down. Release, take the knees down, and we go out of the asana. So, since this is a preparation video, we don't want to stay here too long. You don't have to stay in the asana for a long time. This is a preparation for Sirsasana. So we don't want to stay in Sirsasana for too long. I want you guys to understand that you need to prepare your body before going into the asana. Now, to finish the practice, we're gonna sit in simple cross. So we're gonna simple, hey, sit here. We're gonna sit in simple cross. We're gonna cross the legs in the middle of the chin bone. This is the chin bone, the lower portion of my leg. It's called the chin. So we're gonna cross the legs in the middle of the chin bone. We're gonna lean forward and we want to move the glutes back so that we're sitting on the glutes. Then we're gonna take the hands together in the middle of your chest in Namaste. Take the shoulders back and notice here you can close the eyes. No. Come. Hey. Come. Sit. And you can notice here how we can also work the action of the shoulders, the action of the trapezius, how the scapulas, they have to go down in order to keep the chest open. We give some time to the body to assimilate and try to get yourself into what we are doing. So try to get your mind to stay in the actions that we're trying to practice. And once your mind is there, try to incorporate the breath as well. Slowly release the hands, open the eyes. So we finish this week's video. I hope you guys like it, and please, you can also share with us if how it went with the practice, so we can give you some feedback, so that we can see how you're doing the things, because it's important that you guys do the things nicely and properly. And I hope you have a nice Christmas now that it's Christmas time, and see you next time.